Hello, everyone. Welcome to Career Launchers YT channel, exclusively for MBA aspirants. We continue our series of RC passages. Today, I have chosen a passage on listening based on a very interesting passage about a person which about who has been a favorite with cat question setters. So let's read the passage first. It's about 380, slightly shorter than cat pass. Cat passages vary from 400 to 500 words, but this turned out to be about 400 words. But if I had added another paragraph to it, it was becoming a little too long and the theme was changing slightly. Anyway, let's start. You're watching a recording of this. First, pause the video, read the passage on your own, answer the questions on your own, and then play the video and play the sound and hear me reading it and summarizing it. All right, the instructions remain the same every time. This is practice. Time yourself. See how much time you're taking to read the passage. Per slide, you should take around a minute, not more than a minute, if you have practice. If you are it's early stages, then you can take a minute and a half per slide, and but with time you cut it down to a minute. All right. That way you read a passage in 3 to 3.5 minutes, no matter what the passage is. Let's start. Listening is often considered to the dark matter of conversation. We already have a nice term, juicy for a question setter, a fundamental yet elusive aspect that shapes societies and relations. It's a basic aspect, but it's elusive. Not many really grasp it. While we often recall what someone says, the act of listening itself is harder to define. I can tell what I heard or what I listened to, but how do I describe or define the process of listening is hard. Why? It is an underexplored phenomenon. Its language is largely confined to specialized fields. Pioneers in acoustic awareness have attempted to expand this vocabulary, but these efforts have rarely reached beyond niche disciplines. So, what he's saying is understanding of listening. What is listening? How do you define listening? This area has not gone beyond niche disciplines. It's not become common, a part of the common vocabulary. It's still a very specialized field. The concept of listening as an active process has been shaped by various thinkers, including the poet Rainer Maria Rilke. Now, this person's there was a passage way back in 2007 where he has been quoted. A lot of subsequent passages have some reference to him or not, some reference or other to him. His approach to listening went beyond passive reception, framing it as a demanding, intentional practice. So, according to Rilke, listening is not just passively listening, just passively receiving what has been said. It's a demanding, intentional practice. Rilke lived during a time of technological transformation marked by the invention of the telephone and the phonograph. So he lived in a time where there was a lot of technology happening. He became deeply interested in how these devices altered perceptions of sound and communication. So you had the telephone, you had the phonograph. How are these affecting, altering perceptions of sound and communication? That's what was of interest to him. The ability of sound to be separated from the body and reproduced endlessly introduced a new dimension to listening, one that Rilke found both fascinating and unsettling. That's what a phonograph does. The ability to take a sound away from a body, it's recorded, you can hear it. And you can hear a sound, and that sound is reproduced endlessly. This both fascinated him. How can you do that? Right? When the first time the phonograph was discovered, invented, Rilke was fascinated by it and also unsettled by it. The fact that a sound can be separated from the body and can be reproduced any number of times. Rilke's experience with early sound recording technologies profoundly influenced his understanding of listening. Therefore, his understanding of listening was influenced by what? Certain sound recording technology. They influence him. The fact that what you are saying can be recorded and reproduced a million times, that changed his entire perception and understanding of listening. As a child, he and his classmates created a rudimentary, a very basic, fundamental kind of phonograph, which captured their voices and played them back in a tremulous, fragmented manner. So it's not like he didn't know this could happen. When he was a child, he himself has played with a rudimentary phonograph. This could capture voices and play back. Tremulous means shaking. This moment, shaking, fragmented manner. It's not the perfect recording, but you could still hear your voice shaking and broken, but you could hear it. This moment left a lasting impression on him, illustrating how sound could reveal hidden aspects of reality and invite a deeper engagement with the world. So he understood the real impact of sound. That sound is not something passively received. It could reveal hidden aspects of reality. It could invite one to have a closer, deeper engagement with the world. His reflections on listening were also tied to his spiritual inquiries. Now, he had all these thoughts on listening, but they were also connected to his spiritual inquiry. He was, after all, his poetry has a lot of spiritual aspects to it. His early poetry, particularly the Book of Hours, expected a longing for divine connection through receptive listening. Now, look at how it is really. His early poetry, one of them is his Book of Hours. In this, he is expressed a longing for divine connection through receptive listening. He admired mystics who sought to receive spiritual insights rather than actively seek them. This emphasis on receptivity rather than mere perception formed his poetic practice throughout his life. So his reflections, his perception, his understanding, his thoughts on listening were connected with his spiritual inquiries. His early poetry basically is where he expresses this longing for divine connection through what? Through listening. He also has expressed admiration of mystics because they sought spiritual insights rather than they received spiritual insight rather than seek them. So there was an emphasis on receptivity, receiving it rather than perceiving it, and that influenced his poetic practice throughout his life. Rilke's fascination with listening was not limited to sound. Listening does not only mean sound. His fascination with listening extended to his overall creative process. He criticized the dominance of visual perception in art and sought to cultivate a more attentive, open mode of engagement with the world. He was not in favor of a dominant visual perception in art, and he criticized it, and he thought that one has to be create a more attentive, open-minded engagement with the world. This approach, which he termed in seeing, involved penetrating the essence of an object or experiencing through concentration rather than visual medium, rather than just observation. Understood? Last paragraph. It's about Rilke, his perception of listening, what influenced him, and his overall understanding and reflections on listening. Rilke's understanding of listening was both artistic and philosophical. This is the author's final word on it. It was both artistic and philosophical. It encompassed, means it has within it a broad spectrum of experience from technological mediation of sound to the inner work of creative receptivity. So it combined a lot of experiences, technological mediation of sound, because during his time the phonograph and telephone were invented. That had an impact, but it was not just that, also had the idea of creative receptivity. His insights continue to resonate as a reminder that listening, even though often overlooked, remains a powerful and transformative act. Okay. All right. was the main point the author is making about Rilke's understanding of listening? Easy question. Let's see. Listening for Rilke was about hearing sounds accurately. We know it was not just about hearing sound, it's not about accurate, it's something more than that. So, this is an incomplete answer, doesn't give the main point. Rilke viewed listening as an effortless act of perception. For him, it was a deeper reception, not just perception. Rilke considered listening to be an intentional, transformative process. It was not passive, it was an intentional, transformative process. That's the answer. His interest in listening was influenced by technological advancements, true, but this is not the main point the author is saying about his understanding. Therefore, the correct answer is option C. What can be inferred about the author's discussion of Rilke's encounter with early sound recording technology? We know that Rilke had used early sound recording technology, he was influenced by it, but what can you infer from it? Rilke found technological experience to be unsettling. He was both fascinated and unsettled. The author says both, right? So you can't. Unsettling part is correct, but the second part is wrong. Rejected its influence. This cannot be the answer. The experience inspired Rilke to explore how sound could reveal new aspects of reality. Good, he said that sound he realized from his experience with the phonograph that sound could reveal new aspects of reality. So, this is a good answer. Rilke believed technological mediation of sound was an acceptable distortion of reality, is incorrect. Experience led him to focus solely on visual arts. He actually criticized visual arts. Therefore, the correct answer is option B. Question 3. Based on the passage, which of the following statements is most likely true about Rilke's idea of in seeing? Came towards the end of the passage. What did it say? In seeing was, we'll go back to the passage where the author mentions in seeing here. Last line of the second last paragraph. He termed in seeing this effort. It demanded a more attentive, open mode of engagement, penetrating the essence of an object. So, in seeing involved looking at the essence of an aspect through attention rather than mere observation. That's what in seeing is. Let's look at which option gives this answer. Sorry. It involved visual observation, it involved much more than visual observation. It was a technique used exclusively for spiritual practices. It was a process aimed at understanding an object's essence. True. Essence through observation rather than through understanding rather than just observation or perception. All right, so answer is C. Question 4. The phrase dark matter of conversation. Listening is called the dark matter of conversation. What do you think it means? Invisible yet essential in shaping interactions. That is why it's called dark, invisible, but it's important. The whole passage told us listening is the dark matter of conversation. Listening is actually important. That's what the whole passage said. So, invisible yet essential in shaping interaction seems the correct answer. But let's look at BD and D. An outdated mode of communication. No, he a rare skill possessed by very few individuals. A technical technique is not a technique. So the correct answer is option A. Last question of the set, though Cat gives only 4 questions, in this passage a fifth question was possible. The author's mention of Rilke's childhood experience with the phonograph. He said, right, Rilke had with his childhood friends also experienced the phonograph where he could hear his voice in a tremulous, fragmented manner. That influenced him greatly. So, why did the author mention it? What was the purpose of mentioning this? To illustrate Rilke's early fascination with scientific instruments, to provide a technological explanation for his poetry, to highlight a formative moment that shaped his approach. That is correct. He was deeply influenced by it, and that led to his understanding of listening in a different way, where he understood that technology, the importance of technology, the influence of technology rather than that. So it was a turning point. It was a formative moment that shaped his approach to listening. Undermine the importance of visual perception. He did criticize visual perception, but this is not meant to say that. Therefore, the correct answer is option C. All right. I hope you got most of your questions right. If you have any doubts, please put it in the chat box. We will try to answer it. If you have any questions about our courses, about our sessions, please call the number on your screen so that our counselor can talk to you and resolve your queries. I will see you again next week at the same time. Until then, bye.